Vaccines traditionally have been a scapegoat, I think for the last couple hundred years, for a variety of illnesses for which we don't have a clear cause or clear treatment, and autism certainly falls into that category. My name is Paul Offit, and I've written a book called Autism's False Prophets. I've written it because I want parents to know that there's a lot of misinformation out there about autism, and that misinformation can hurt them. A few years ago, there was born the notion that vaccines might cause autism. And so the public health community responded. They responded by doing a series of studies to try and answer the question, were you at greater risk of getting autism if you've gotten vaccines than if you hadn't? And the answer was clear and consistent and reproducible. No, the risk was no greater if you had gotten vaccines or if you hadn't. And so the science was pretty clear. But what's happened is there's been a tremendous rift, I think, between the science that exonerates vaccines and the public's understanding of that science. And that's why I've written this book, to try and get at that rift between the science and the public's understanding of the science. What I do in the book is I kind of go through the birth of the notion that vaccines cause autism, and then look in a very careful way as to what are the data that support or don't support that notion, and I think reach the inevitable conclusion that anybody that looks at this information would reach, which is that vaccines clearly have been exonerated. And then the last third of the book focuses on why is it that this science just hasn't gained traction with the public. As a scientist, I had always imagined that once good science was performed, that would be enough. But what was interesting for me, I think, in the writing of this book was to see all the perturbations that science, or the understanding of science, has to go through by having to go through the filter of the media or through the filter of our culture. You never hear from the parents who don't believe that vaccines cause their children's autism, but many of them are angry that the vaccine hypothesis has taken the autism story over. What this book provides is it provides a voice for those parents. Children with autism and their parents are incredibly vulnerable to these modern day false prophets who've offered this cottage industry of false hope or false cures. And it's done a lot of harm. Harm because children have missed vaccines that they've needed, harm because we continue to spend money looking at a vaccine hypothesis that has no chance of bearing fruit, and harm because children have been subjected to dangerous and occasionally fatal therapies. It's not okay, and that's why I've written this book.